Now, this series for the Dallas Mavericks versus the Clippers has been probably the most entertaining series so far in this year's playoffs. I think a lot of fans around the league want to see the Clippers lose in the first round. Some other fans want to see the Mavericks make it out of the first round for the first time since 2011. Now, with the series being tied up, there's one thing we know for sure, and that is Luka Doncic needs more help. Now, the role players have been doing fine, but the 7'3" unicorn on the Mavericks has been very lackluster this series, and today on the channel we are going to talk about why. But what's up YouTube, and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis and how he's playing during the series, and how he has played throughout the season and last year's playoffs versus the Clippers. But before the video gets started, we are 18 subscribers away from 3,000, so if you do want to see new videos 5 times a week, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell. Also leave a like, it really helps the video out and it takes a fraction of a second. But with all that out of the way, let's finally get into today's video. Now, to start off the video, I want to make a really bold statement and say that Kristaps Porzingis might be the worst co-star in the playoffs right now. Obviously, the Clippers have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Lakers have LeBron James and AD. Brooklyn has the big three. Jason Tatum doesn't even have a second star right now unless you want to count Kemba, but he was out last game against the Brooklyn Nets. 76ers have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, things like that. Luka does not have that second star when it comes to the playoffs. Last season, Kristaps Porzingis played a lot better during the playoffs. He shot around 50% from beyond the three-point line, and also shot above 50% from the field. He was a big reason why this Mavericks team was able to hold off the Clippers, that in my opinion was a better team last season with the pieces that they had. And I think that's why the Mavericks were able to get it to 6 games. Obviously the series isn't over now, but with the series being tied now, I think it's going to be a lot more stressful for Luka Doncic to try to get this Mavericks team up once again. Because once they went back to the American Airlines Center, the Mavericks just didn't look like the same team that was playing this Clippers team in Game 1 and Game 2. The role players didn't play as well. Tim Hardaway Jr. just looked extinct, like he wasn't the same player that he was. And also Kristaps Porzingis just hasn't really been playing well throughout this playoff series. Now, this is when things start to come into play. About a month or two ago, I made a video saying that the Dallas Mavericks should try to trade Kristaps Porzingis for another star. I still believe that, because right now he's only averaging 15 points a game throughout the playoffs, which is not something that you need from your second co-star that's supposed to be the star alongside Luka Doncic. We actually see that Tim Hardaway Jr. is actually having more points per game and on better efficiencies. This playoffs for the Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis is only shooting 33% from beyond the three-point line, which is not going to help the Mavericks win more games. I mean, it might if he pops off and has a really good game, but it's just him struggling throughout the series, which is really hurting the Mavericks and their chances of getting out of the first round. Now, from last playoff series against the Clippers to this playoff series against the Clippers, we can see a clear distinction of Kristaps Porzingis and how he has fallen off versus the same Clippers team. Last season, he was averaging 23.7 points and 8.7 rebounds per game, and was also shooting 53% from the field and 53% from beyond the three-point line, and you would also shoot 87% from the free throw line. Those are numbers that you would want from your second star, and he would play and start in 3 of those games before getting injured, and in those games he looked really good. Now coming to this series, he just hasn't looked the same, and he hasn't even played the same either. Hasn't really been attacking the basket as much as he should have, and really limiting himself from just being a three-point shooter. It seems like him attacking the basket isn't something that he wants to do this series, and even when he does, his field goal percentage is really low. This just shows one thing, and that is Luka really desperately needs another star, and I just don't think Kristaps Porzingis can be a co-star or that second option, because right now, we see that Tim Hardaway Jr. is actually having a higher impact on the Mavericks than Kristaps Porzingis. As we know, throughout the playoffs, you need a second star, especially in this day of age, where we see teams that have at least 1 or 2, or even if you look at the Brooklyn Nets, they have 3 superstars on the team. And Luka just can't do it all by himself. We see this recently with the last game, even though he was playing through injury, he only had 19 points, and that's just not going to help this team go past the Clippers that have Kawhi Leonard, who we know can really light it up throughout the playoffs, and Paul George that, even though people call him Pandemic P, he is a player that can get really hot quickly throughout the game, which is what we also saw last game versus the Mavericks. The Mavericks have a lot of things that they have to look at throughout this offseason, and I think the biggest one has to be Kristaps Porzingis because he has not been playing well throughout this series. Now, in these next couple of games, if he can start to get hot, I know he'll have a huge impact for the Mavericks and their chances to make it further into the playoffs because, of course, he's 7'3", and how are you going to guard that if he is knocking down his shots and taking it strong into the paint? And we can't say that Luka Doncic is ball hogging or not making the right passes because I feel like Luka Doncic is playing a lot better now than what he was last year in that playoff series last year. Now, even though this season Kristaps Porzingis has averaged 20 points, which is something that he's been averaging for the last 2 seasons, it's really different when you play him in the playoffs because these are desperate times where he needs to play efficiently and effectively. It's easy to do this during the regular season when you're playing different teams and they don't know really how to adjust to you. But when you're playing a team in a 4 or 7 game series, it's a lot easier for somebody like Ty Lue to change the game plan and really adjust to playing defense on Kristaps Porzingis. And we could actually see that now because Kristaps Porzingis throughout this whole entire series just hasn't been looking really well. He had a night where he dropped 20 points and then recently in game 4 he dropped 18. But that's not helping the team win. We could see that now because even with him dropping 18, he still didn't help the Mavericks win that game. And that's when that second star comes into play because with Luka, as we know, he's really, really good. But adding a second star or having Kristaps Porzingis actually step up, we wouldn't have to see Luka struggle to get these points up and also carry this team on his back. I know it will make him a better player in the long run, but if the Mavericks want to get out of the first round, they have to do everything that they can to get Luka better help. And Kristaps Porzingis, even though it was a smart idea to trade for him, he just hasn't panned out to be anything more than a third option. I think the Dallas Mavericks really have a lot to look at when it comes to free agency this year, and we could see them make a huge move to get another player that would actually be the second star for this Dallas Mavericks team. And I really want to see this Mavericks team make it far throughout the playoffs, either this season or next season, but it all depends on how Kristaps Porzingis plays and if he can really get the ball moving because at the end of the day, he's supposed to be that second option. I know this is a little bit more of a rant video, but it's just really how we see it. And I know a lot of Mavericks fans are upset with Kristaps Porzingis and his lackluster play because he's just not playing how he should be playing. And that is being a dominant big man that can extend his range all the way throughout the three-point line, but also play inside as well, which is something that should be unguardable. But it seems like he's playing defense on himself sometimes with not being able to shoot really well. But if you made it this far, that means you have made it to the end of the video. I know that this is more of like a rant video, and again, these are the type of videos I'm going to be doing from now on, just really going off a script. I mean, the first part is on script, but the second part is more of my basic thoughts and understandings on how the playoffs are going so far. I watched a lot of these playoff games already. We could just see the difficulty that Kristaps Porzingis is playing with throughout this whole entire series. I really hope he gets into a rhythm where he could actually start to score and be really, really effective and like impactful for the Mavericks because Luka needs him. And I think it's something that the fans really want to see because I know the Mavericks want to get out of that first round. They haven't been out of the first round since 2011, and they always after that just got booted out in the first round. And I think it's just something that people really want to see. But again, I want to say thank you just for watching and spending just a couple minutes of your Tuesday with me. I know I didn't upload yesterday, but that was because it was Memorial Day and I wanted you guys to spend a lot of time with your families. And I just don't think it would have been a smart idea to upload yesterday just because everybody's going to be doing things with their families, going to parties, hanging out, picnics, and things like that. And I just really wanted you guys to spend time with your families, just like how I was. So, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video, where if the Boston Celtics lose tonight, we'll talk about what's next in the grand scheme of things to see exactly what the Boston Celtics should do next. But as always, I'll see you in the next video.